Welcome to this session where I'm sharing how to turn any comprehensible and compelling test into highly engaging activities. And I'm going to talk more about these type of activities. Thank you, Maritza. Gracias por estar aquí. But I really want you to I'm going to just share a lot of information with you today, and I'm going to share the replay of this session in an email that I'm going to try to send tonight or tomorrow after school. But I want you to relax and kind of listen and learn and get whatever you serve you, and then whatever doesn't serve you, just pretend that you didn't listen. I have been in so many trainings. I love to learn, but sometimes it just feels a lot. And when we get that feeling, we just kind of like shut down and say, I'm not going to do any of that. So let's do this and try to just grab at least one activity, one thing that you can incorporate in your class, next day, tomorrow. Let's try tomorrow. If you think tomorrow is too much, maybe we can do Tuesday. Okay, so this is me. For those of you who haven't met me, I think I see so many faces that I recognize. So I know for a lot of you, this is all information. But in case you are new to me or to my community, my name is Claudia Elliot. I am a Spanish teacher. I'm from Colombia. And my first language is Spanish, so I do have an accent. I do make mistakes in English. And I'm just letting you know, I'm not apologizing, I'm just letting you know. Been living here for 18 years and I'm still learning every day. I love to learn. That is something that I have a huge passion in myself about learning and growing. I'm just kind of like that sponge. I love to listen, to read, and to go to different communities. And I love to engage with you because every time that I have conversation with you, I learn so much. I'm a presenter, I'm a podcaster, I'm a founder of Growing with Proficiency, the Spanish Teacher Academy, and I know I've seen a lot of my members here. Yeah, for you. Gracias a todos los miembros de la academia. You are amazing. And I'm a Teacher of the Year for FFLA, and then I am a School Teacher of the Year too. So that is me, and I want to talk more about you. So let's start with you, and I want you to tell me a little bit about you. So if you could put in the chat what you teach, where you teach, what is something that is challenging you right now? What is a big challenge that you have right now? And what do you want to get at the end of the session? Just give me one thing. Gracias, señor Zamudio. One thing that you want to learn at the end of the session. One thing that you want to say, this was so worth it. This was amazing. I learned this. So what would be one thing? And I'm trying to, in the meantime, you don't know what I'm trying here, but it would be, oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, so I want you to read and see if you can connect with somebody. I want you to read at the chat and pay attention. And I want you to look and see if there is somebody in your area, somebody in your community, somebody that maybe is teaching the same thing as you, somebody that you can connect. Because at the end, those connections and that community is going to help us move forward. So let's start doing that. Okay, Caroline, how to learn organized stations. Oh, Caroline, I know that you love the episode. I have had so many great comments about that, and I will probably share more about it. Classroom management. Oh my gosh, Laura, I hear you. Fresh ideas for the end of the year. Luisa, I hope that I can give you some. Through the end of the year. Okay, Maggie. Tonya. Yes. Oh my gosh, Patricia is from Spain. What time is in Spain right now? I'm so glad, Patricia. I'm just like you. I go to a session and whatever that is gonna, if I learn something, that's great. Apathetic, Teresa, apathetic kids, they break your heart, right? Like I think they get, it's so hard, especially when you give them so much and you just turn and they don't give you much. I hope that I can give you one activity. Okay, Christine, Boston, intermediate to intermediate high. Oh my gosh, Christine, I know I have to do more of that. Whew. Okay, these are great. Paula, Tonya, and all the levels, everybody, more engagement. Oh my gosh, Margarita, I think I'm gonna have something for you. Differentiation and use stories. Rosemary, you need to listen to episode 31 of Growing with Proficiency, the podcast, because I talk about stations all the time there. Okay, so it's great, and I want to read all these, and I'm gonna read it later, but I want you to take a look and see who can you connect, and that would be lovely. Barbara, and I think I have something for you. Okay, so a lot of you are looking for something to finish the year. I don't know you, but I feel exhausted. I don't know if you agree with me. If you are with me, I don't have energy. I try my best, but man, it's just hard. It's so hard. So that's why I wanted to bring this session today. I've been talking a lot about this in my podcast, in my social media, inside my academy, but I wanted today to do something different. I wanted today to really kind of like bring everything together in one session, and that's why I am here. And I'm okay. So let's talk about this. So what we're going to talk today, we're going to talk first about the foundation of engagement. And I'm going to take 3 minutes to talk about it. And I want to talk about it because sometimes an activity is not enough. An activity is not going to be the solution if we don't have the foundation right. And I want to just briefly touch on that. Then I'm going to share 10 activities that you can use tomorrow to engage with your class. And the third one, ideas on what to do next. And these are just ideas that you can take. Now, again, I'm going to repeat it. You are the expert. You are the expert in your class. You know your students better. You know your audience better. You know your context better. I am not there. I don't know. So what I do is I'm sharing what is working in my class. I share what I have learned, what I do, and then you take what you need. And don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about the rest. So the rest can go. Maybe, this is not the year. Maybe that's not the class. Maybe that's not going to work in your class. And that's okay. Okay, so let's start with this. This is the foundation. So every time that we are using in class, every time that we are in class and you have a text and you are talking about an activity to pre-read a text or to engage with a text or to do something with a text, that text has to be comprehensible. So it is really difficult to engage with something that the students don't understand. If the students don't understand, it's going to be extremely hard. Now, you may have some students who are like highly motivated that are going to just fight through and walk through something that is highly incomprehensible, and maybe you have few. But I'm telling you, even for those, this month is not the month. It's not the month because they are exhausted. My students are taking AP and IB and of course exam all in one. So if I'm going to bring tomorrow a text to my class that is going to be above their level, I will find a lot of resistance, more than ever. So when we're talking about a text, I want you to think of a text that can be easily comprehensible for your students. And I know a lot of people say, oh, what is the rigor? The rigor in my class is that I can stay in Spanish and my students understand what I'm saying. That is the rigor. And that is a hard thing to do. So keep that in mind. It has to be comprehensible. The second one is you need to have a message attached to that text. What do I mean by that? When students are reading a text or when they're listening to an audio, or when they're looking at a picture, whatever type of text you're using, a video, a clip, a text, an article, an interview, a story, whatever you're using, it has to have a message. That means that the students are engaging to discover that message. And usually we listen or we read for 3 reasons. The first reason is because we want to learn about the world. That's why you're here. You are listening to me just because you want to learn about one of these activities to see if you can incorporate them in your class tomorrow. So that's it. Or you want to learn about each other. So you are asking questions and you're asking where are you from or what you like or what did you do over the weekend, but you're asking questions to find or to have fun. That's why we watch Netflix. That's why we watch a lot of reality. I mean, I watch some reality TV when my brain is totally burned and toasted. That's what I do. Reality TV because it's nothing that I need to think about it. It's just fun. So that's good. I mean, I'm not saying that that's not good, but you have to have that message. And the next one is we need to stay building connections. And right now, I really want you to start taking care of yourself because our students are going to put us, like test us every single day. Every single day, they have a ton and they're going to be ugly and they're going to be disengaged and they're going to be very sensitive and they're going to be really stressed because it's the end of the year. So those students who are still working hard, they're going to be very stressed because they may not have the grades that they want and they're going to be on the edge. And some students are seeing their evidence. And the evidence is that they didn't do well in the year and now they are not doing well at the end of the year. And of course, exams, APs, IBs, they don't feel prepared and they feel like here. So that is their situation. And they come to class. So we need to be ready because that is something that is coming. So you need to take some time for you to walk, to take a nap, to listen to a song that you like and get ready so we can keep building those connections. So we cannot, every time that they just turn their eyes or they do like that, like you just control yourself, breathe and don't react. So building connections is extremely important. Okay, so let's keep going. That is the foundation. I want you to like really think about that as your foundation. Okay, so now, and I'm going back and forth because this is, okay. This is something that is a quote that I love by Florencia. Florencia Hanshu says this in her book of Common Ground with Mary Hawkins. And they say every time you provide comprehensible input, you should give students a clear reason for paying attention and understanding as much as possible. So every time that we have a text that is comprehensible to them, we have to have that message. So they are listening and we need to like understand how they think so we can be ready to provide activities where they're going to be engaging with. So that is super, super important. Okay, so this is how I structure all my lessons. I also start with input. I start either talking to them or reading to them or they're reading. So we're going to start a little bit about this. We're going to start with input and input-based activities. We have a text and we're going to say how I'm going to start with that text, what type of activities. And the text can be anything that you are doing in your class right now, something that you did in the past and worked really well and you want to bring it back, something that you feel your students are going to feel compelled to read. So let's start this. I'm trying to admit people, move my PowerPoint on the right place, but as you can see, I always go back, one back and one forward. Okay, so this is the text. Any text. What text I'm going to use tomorrow? I'm going to use this. Why? Because tomorrow is el Día del Trabajo. Es el Día Internacional del Trabajo. So we're going to talk about el Día Internacional del Trabajo. I'm going to bring a text. We have talked, I'm going to do this with my Spanish 3 and with my AP class. We're going to talk about Cesar Chavez. So is this comprehensible? Yes, it is comprehensible for my students. I read it, it's comprehensible. This has glosses. This has everything for my students to have. There is communication, of course, because they're going to learn about Cesar Chavez. They're going to learn about his fight, his cause, why he fought, what he's activista, and we're going to talk about that. Is it connected to them? Probably not, but I will make sure that they connect with them. So I have all these resources already in my class. I have all these panoramas culturales that I have done This is this is the month to use them. This is the month that I can recycle. So think about in your class, what do you have? What is the text that you can use in your class? What is something, a clip, an audio, something that you can use in your class that your students can understand? Or you can create something for them based on what they want. Or you can co-create. So tomorrow is Monday, and you can come and say, let's talk about your weekend. And you're going to ask questions about their weekend, and then together are going to create a text. And then you're going to have a text. And with that text, you can do all these activities that I'm going to share with you. But you have to have a text, and that text has to be comprehensible. Communication has to be at the center. And then you want to connect with your students while you're doing these activities. Okay, so let's start with 10. Okay, this is the first one. I love this. I learned this in school with Chelsea Lawrence, and she was talking about the model E, basically is starting with inquiry. So this is my first, this is my slide for tomorrow for my Spanish 3 and my AP class. So it's like, what do you wonder? What do you wonder about this? So I'm bringing a picture related to my text, and I'm gonna put it, look at my prep. My prep went to Google, say pictures related to Cesar Chavez. I picked 2 that I felt it were interesting, and I put them there. And the only thing that is gonna be on my board is in Spanish, this. What do you wonder about this image? Ask questions. And my students working in pairs are gonna develop 6 questions. 6 questions about my text. And they haven't read the text, but some of them may know Cesar Chavez, some of them may not know Cesar Chavez, but they're going to create the questions. Why? Because I want to start with inquiry. I don't want to be in front of them telling them why they want to listen to about Cesar Chavez. I don't want to be in front of them. I want to reduce my talking to them because they're not paying attention. So I want them to work in pairs, and I want them to write 6 questions. Then 2 pairs, and 2 pairs are going to come together, and they're going to be 4 students. And those 4 students are going to identify their best 6 questions. And then they are going to share questions. So what am I doing? First, I am sparking in their curiosity. What do you wonder about this? There are no bad questions. Just what do you wonder about this? Next, they're working in pairs. The next time they're going to work in groups of 4. That means that I can ask anybody. I can ask anybody because everybody should be with at least a question. Now, when they start giving me the questions, this is what I do. I grab my pen, my marker, and I go to my whiteboard, and I start writing the questions in Spanish. Now, a lot of the questions are not going to be accurate because they're going to have the subject and the verb switch, because the endings of the verbs are not going to be matching, because the pronoun, like who do you go with, and they're going to try to put in Spanish with at the end, con, how do you say, quién va con, like something like that. So I know what they're trying to say. So I grab my marker and I rewrite it. I just rewrite it in a correct way. Now, if I'm doing this with my level 1, even with my level 3, some of them may want to like put some English there. It's okay. I don't care. I don't care, because what I care right now is that they're thinking about this picture. Who is this guy? Why he looks so sad? Who is that lady with the thing on top? What is he doing? What is he fighting for? Is that a famous guy? What are they doing? When is this? Where are they? I want them to start thinking about the picture. And they are going to start thinking, because we like to know about people. And they're going to have to do this. Now, that is a great hook. And your prep is 0. You didn't have to do anything. You just brought the picture, and that's it. Now, they're asking the questions. Now, these questions are amazing, because what you do with your questions, at least this is what I do. I leave them on my board. And after we read the text, or after we listen what we have to listen, we look at the questions again, and we decide which questions we were able to answer with the text or the audio. So it's like a great way for you to check comprehension without checking for comprehension. without creating any other activity. You already have them. And then you want to create a quick quiz because you want to say if they're paying attention, if they're listening, they're reading. Then you turn to your class and you say, choose 3 questions that we have on the board, write them on your paper, and answer based on the text. So they are creating the questions for you. They are getting curious about the text. So this is something that I am doing a lot with my classes. And I'm going to show you an example of what I did with my level 1 class 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago when we were reading a text about Las Cholitas. So this is a unit that I do in my class, and this is Las Cholitas. So I put this picture and I say, what do you wonder? What do you wonder? And they did that. They got in pairs, and then the 2 pairs in 4s, and then they start telling me. And these are the questions. What, who are they? Where are they? Where are they going to? Why are in the mountains? What do the colors represent? What do they wear in the skirts? Why they're wearing that scarf? What is the meaning of their clothing for these people? So they start asking questions. And then when I told them the story, I told the story orally at that point. We went back and we start saying which questions we were able to answer. This is your student. You don't have to engage your student. You don't have to convince your student that this is interesting. They are gonna start getting interested in the text or in the topic that you're gonna be talking about because they're generating the question. So this is my first, is starting with questions, with a picture, have them to have questions about the picture. So that's my first one. Okay, what else? When you see BR is before. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm doing, my audio is not working, so I don't think you're going to be able to listen to that. But this is a video of this. So this is total physical response. Now, when I ask those questions, I also know that my text may have some words that are key for my test, for my students to understand the text. But I want them to do it through total physical response. And what I do is I identify my words, 8 to 10, I establish meaning, and then I create a gesture for the word. And then I model the gesture and I say the word. I have students to imitate me. So this is something that I do with most of my activities, with most of my units, because they're gonna want to, they start learning the vocab. Now, this is so much better than flashcards. This is so much better than, this is the list, right? Find the word, write it. Because the reality is when we give that list, half of them are gonna go to sleep. Half of them are gonna copy from the neighbor. Half of them are not going to do it. So when you do it like that, everybody has to do it. Everybody has to do it. And what I do after that is I do plates. And I'm going to play this video, but I'm going to explain it before. So I do my 8 words. So I say the word, I do the gesture, my students repeat the word, they imitate the gesture. We do like 3 rounds like that. They're 8 to 10, so it's not like a ton of words. And then I do plates. So with plates, students have a plate, a paper plate between them. So they're playing in pairs, one in front of each other. And then they have a plate. I start saying the words. Like in this case, we were talking about an unit that I'm doing with my Spanish 1 that is butterfly, volver, come back, viene, come, llenos de hambre, madrugada. So we have the words. And whenever, and they still doing the gesture, whenever I say plate, with their feet, they drag the plate. And whoever drags the plate first, that person wins. And is so fun that you are not going to imagine. So I'm going to see if I can share the audio. My audio wasn't working earlier. So let me see. Okay, I'm going to see. Can you hear? Enamoradas. Enamoradas. Madrugada. Madrugada. Cambio. So I say all my words, they were working, they were playing. So this is essential. They were playing with another student. So you don't have the kid that says, I don't want to do it, because they're playing with a classmate. So they are in front of each other, they're saying the word, they're doing the gesture. And when you say plate, the student who grabs the plate with their foot first wins. And they laugh so hard and it's just so fun. And what are you doing? You're reviewing vocab. You are reviewing vocab, they're moving. Oh, I know, les encanta, they love it. And you can really spend, it's a great brain break, is a way for you to review vocab, is a way for students to stand up and move. And you don't have, yes, that's, I say plato, right, Tonya? I say plato because I said it in Spanish. I said plato, and then they grab the plate. Now, you are going over vocab. So this is so much better than doing the flashcards and everything else. And you can do this 2 or 3 times per class, especially if you're like me that have 90 minutes class. And you can be like, oh my God, this is a lot. Okay. So that is a plate and a TPR. So we have 2. Start with questioning, and the next one is start with a TPR. Okay, let's move. I'm gonna try to move. Oh my gosh, look at this. I just don't, no. Why is this doing that? I mean, I just really like Canva, but managing the, why is that? Okay. Clase. Enamoradas. Madrugada. Okay, I think I skipped one. This is terrible. I'm thinking that I'm gonna, I don't know. Okay, this is traffic light. Okay, so traffic light is a great activity that I've been sharing with you. And I think a lot of you already do a traffic light. So basically with traffic light, what you're gonna do is you are gonna have your students to use 3 colors. Green to highlight everything that they understand from the text. Yellow to highlight things that they think that they understand in the text. And red, not read, red, oh my gosh, red for something that they don't understand. Now, so what do you do is something like you see on the picture. You have the students, you give them 3 markers or 3 highlighters, and then they're gonna see it and then highlight what they read. Now, I love this. I love this because they engage and they're paying attention. However, you may have that student who thinks no, it's at all. Or you may have that student that is a heritage speaker sitting in your Spanish 1 class or in your Spanish 2 class. And they're gonna just put like green all over the page. And after 2 minutes, they say, I'm done. And you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do with you? So I created task detectives. So my task detectives are those students. My task detectives are the students who I know they're gonna put my paper absolutely in green. And they know because they're highly proficient, because they are native speakers, because they have this ability, and that's amazing. So what I do with them is that they become my detectives, and their work is to go around the class and look at the students who are working and look at the reds. And any word that is in red, they have a marker. They're going to go to the front of the class and they are going to write the word and the meaning in English. So they become our tax dictionaries. And I call them tax detectives. And I usually have 3 or 4, depending on how big my class is. Now, this works so well for my students. And I just don't have that I had in the past with the students finishing and saying, I'm done, I already did it, and I just don't have anything else to read. So this is traffic light reading with task detectives. Now, the task detectives protocol you can use for anything, especially for those kids. If you have heritage speakers, if you have kids that are like, oh my gosh, they finish first, they know it all, and you're like, how can we need to support the class? So if they become detectives to go around and collect some type of information, this is going to work really, really well. So that is the next one, which is traffic light reading with task detective. Yes, Francie, it's great. I mean, it works. And and you know what? You are going to start discovering they don't know as much as they think they know. Because they're going to start looking at words like, what does it say? And then we're like, okay, so let's look it up. And we look it up in the dictionary and like, oh my gosh, I didn't know. Or how do you say that in English? Or, and then you start like really working with them because they just feel like they know it all. And sometimes they don't. And this is a great way to differentiate with your students and have them also engage. Yes. Yeah, Maria, see, now you have one to use. And they feel great. I mean, they feel like, oh my gosh, I'm helping, I'm doing, I'm a task detective. I'm just so worried about my presentation here, guys. Okay. Okay, this is sketching. So we're talking during reading. So this is an activity that you're gonna have while your students are listening or reading. So the first one, they're reading and they're doing traffic light reading with a task detective. In the second one is they're sketching with hashtags. So what you do is you give the text to your students and you have a students to take notes on the margin of the text by doing a sketch. So they're not writing words, they're just doing sketches. And I really want to see like super clear that they are understanding the text. This is something that we did like 3 weeks ago, and this is my Spanish one. And you have to see the details that they put. So they have the family, and they have the 5 brothers, and they have that she lives in the mountains, and she's talking about how tall the mountains are, and then they're talking about the traditional clothing, and they're really working with those sketches. And it's not too much like, oh, I cannot draw, because it's not that, it doesn't require that level of drawing. It really doesn't matter, but they're sketching. Now, that is the first step. The second step is this. You can create hashtags. So what I like to do for my level 1 is to create the hashtags for them. And for my upper levels, they create their own hashtags. So what I do is I look at each paragraph and I try to think a word in Spanish that can like summarize the topic of that first paragraph. And I create those words as a hashtag. And then I put those hashtags on my board. And then my students, whenever they finish, they have to put the hashtag that belongs to each paragraph next to each other. And then they look in their groups and they say, okay, so my hashtag was ropa tradicional, but my hashtag was identity, but my hashtag was dream, but my hashtag was si se puede. And then they start looking at this hashtag. And then what am I doing? I'm just working on main idea. And do they know that I'm working on main idea? No, they're talking about hashtag. And if I want to do it, I have like these templates for Twitter, and I have one, and I said, okay, tweet something about this reading, and then create your hashtag. So this is a sketch noting with hashtags. For my upper levels, I don't have to create the hashtags. I have them to create the hashtag. And you can put them in pairs after they do the sketch noting, and then you can pair them up and say, okay, so you start creating the hashtags. And then you can say which are the most popular hashtags for paragraph 1, and you can like put them on the board. Paragraph here, everybody's gonna write the hashtag here. So they're engaged, they're moving, they are thinking, and they're not focusing on, oh, I'm reading this, I don't understand this, because they're really sharing what they can understand with the text. Now, remember, let's go back to what I said at the beginning. These texts have to be comprehensible, because the moment that they are above their level, oh my gosh, they are not going to, they just kind of like check out, especially this time of the year. Okay, let's move with this one. This is boom. And I'm going to play this little video.
¿Vive en Estados Unidos o el coco vive en Colombia? ¿Vive en Estados Unidos o vive en Colombia?
Okay, this is a great game. So basically, the original game was Siéntate by Señora Chase, but I call it Boom because I couldn't understand exactly, so I just did it my way. And basically, two students are facing each other, and you ask a question. I like to ask either or questions because it's an opportunity for me to repeat the language. Now, students will listen and wait. So I say my sentence. I'm going to say like, César Chávez es de México o César Chávez es de los Estados Unidos. César Chávez es de México o de los Estados Unidos. And I have my hands up like this. They cannot answer. If my hands up, they cannot answer. And I'm going to repeat it, and I'm going to count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when I finish and I say boom, then the student who answered first wins. Now, why do I count? Because I want to give everyone the chance to be able to win. Because these games are fun when you win, or when you at least have the chance to win. But if I say César Chávez es de México o de Estados Unidos, before I finish Estados Unidos, there are going to be few students who are going to just say it. And then they're going to win. They're not going to let me finish. Then the students are not going to start listening to me anymore. So counting is so important because you give them, and then they are like they're so antsy. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna say it, and it's great. So the question that I like to ask is either or activities, and you can do this in the middle of a text, or you can do this after they read. It's a great way to review the entire text. It's a great way to recycle the language of a text. It's a great way to check for comprehension. And if a student misses a detail from the text, you are gonna really focus on those details that are the most important. Sophia, they don't keep track with points. I mean, they do, at least they think, but we really don't. And they don't care. They just really like how loud they can be because they want to be loud and obnoxious. So they're like, oh, es de México. And they scream to each other like that. And that is kind of like get out that energy, and is great. Now, what I tell them is that if they're tied, they're going to play rock, paper, scissors. And then after 3 or 4 questions, I have them change partners. So then they're going to go to another partner, and then we're going to repeat, so we count. But we don't keep track. I mean, they should, they don't. I always say, who won? And everybody won. They feel like everybody won. So that's good. But this is a great activity. You can do it as long, and I try to keep it like, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, because then they get tired and then they're going to disengage. But again, it's a great way for them to stand up, scream, be loud, but also review some language. So it's a great. Yes, Maria, I do this with my AP class, I do this with my Spanish 3 class, I do this with my Spanish 1 class. And the only difference is my language, but it's just great. Like we were talking about Maria Cano, for example, we read a book with AP, and then I was saying, so María encaja en la sociedad o María no encaja en la sociedad. Ella encaja en la sociedad o no encaja. And I really wanted to look at the word encaja. O la sociedad piensa que es importante que las mujeres se casen, o es importante, según la sociedad, es importante que las mujeres se casen, o es importante que las mujeres sean amas de casa. I'm using the subjunctive. So again, I'm giving them a new chance for them to listen to the structure, and then they get up, they scream, they laugh, and it's like, okay, now we can come back. So it's a great activity. But again, I'm gonna repeat the same thing. I'm gonna be like, una cantaleta, como mi mamá dice. It's super important that the text that we're using is comprehensible, right? Like we need to be talking about themes, topics, what happened in your weekend. You can do this with your weekend. You can sit down tomorrow, ask your students what they did over the weekend, create a text, and then play boom. Okay, now you listen to what everybody said, we wrote this, we read this, now everybody stand up, and then you start saying, María fue a la playa o María fue al mall. Maritza durmió mucho o Marisa hizo la tarea. And then you review everything that you just talked, but they're standing up, which is huge for me. Like every time that they stand up, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm winning. And then they scream. And it's kind of like a control scream, which they need. Yes, absolutely.
I love to see how my students engage.
I don't know what I'm struggling with. I don't know. Like I'm always a struggle with this. I don't know why I think that the next time I'm not going to struggle with Canva.
I love to see how my students engage with the
Cool. Okay. 6. Okay, so let's review our first 5. The first one was start with questioning. Put an image and have students to write elaborate questions that they think that they wonder about the topic. The second one is TPR. You can play plates with TPR, identifying vocab words that are essential in your text. The third one was traffic light reading with task detectives. The fourth one is sketch noting with hashtag summaries. And the fifth one was boom. Okay, now let's go with the sixth one. This is something that students can do during reading or after reading. And is, I don't know why did I do this, is illustrate. I don't know, this is like the wrong slide, but it's illustrate, is read and illustrate the text. So the first one is text from Panorama Cultural, and this was back in November, I think the beginning of December, where they read about Las Hermanas Mirabal. So what I did is I told them to write the 6 most important events based on the text, and then write about it. So what they read or after they read, they can do this. And it's a different way, and you're differentiating. You are really allowing the students to express what they understand by drawing. And this is another one that we did about Las Cholitas. Now, you can do with this a lot. So when you have these drawings, don't throw them away. Now, a lot of them are not going to be great, but few of them are going to be amazing. And when you do that is you are going to take pictures of the amazing ones, and you are going to create work for them for the next day. And not only your students are going to be like, so they're going to feel like amazing that you're using their work, but then you don't have to do the work, because finding images sometimes is hard. So when you have them to draw and illustrate, take those because they are super important. And when you have those, then you do this. And I'm going to do the next one. Gallery walk. So gallery walk is one of my favorite activities to do. I do gallery walk every single week. I try to do at least once per week. And the reason is because I have my students up and moving. So how many types of gallery walks you can? Anytime. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the concept. Let me know in the chat if you already have done gallery walk or if you haven't done it, so I know if I should give you a lot of details or just give you just the main things. Maria, no. Okay. Karima, no. Okay. Okay, Rosemary. Okay. Okay. Oh my God, you're gonna love it. You are gonna love gallery walk. So what do you do with gallery walk? With gallery walk, basically the idea is that your students, you create some stations, but they're not like really stations to work as a centers, but you have pieces of information on the walls in your room or outside your classroom. I like to put them outside my classroom because even changing the setting, changing the surroundings gives them a break. So even just the space is going to be new for them and it's going to be more engaging for them. So think about a museum. So when you go to a museum, you go from piece to piece to look at the piece and then you engage. It's like, oh, this is so pretty, blah, blah. So you talk about the piece. Think that is exactly the same thing. So when I do word recognition with a test, this is what I do. These are options for you. There are 4 options. There are like 10 options. I can give you 20 options, but we just don't have all the time today. But only for this, I like to start my text with word recognition. I want my students to understand the key words from the text. So one option for gallery walk is word recognition. You can create an image related to specific words. You can write for your upper levels, those of you who are doing AP, IB, Spanish 3, Spanish 4, you can write a synonym of a word that is in your text. You can write a definition of a word that is in your text. You can have your students to take 15 words important from the text. You can have your students to write those definitions. And you have the definition of 15 words that are essential in the text. Then on a piece of paper, you write with a marker the definition, the synonym, or if you have pictures, the picture. And then you are going to post those around the walls. It can be inside your classroom, but I highly advise you to go to the hallways, to go to the media centers, to go outside, to go to some place else that is not your classroom. It makes a huge difference. I use my hallway and I ask my students to use voice level 1 so we don't disturb anyone. So you know your students, you know better your setting. So what I do is I put my papers, as you can see, they're white papers, piece of paper, nothing fancy. And I put a number 1 and my first definition, number 2, my second definition. And then I ask my students to work in pairs. So they always working with a partner. I don't want them to work by themselves. I want them to work in a partners. And then I give them the text, the reading text. And I say, I need you to find in the text that we're reading, those words. So you're going to read the definition and find in the text the word that matches that definition, the word that matches that image. So what do they need to do? They need to read again. Now, I want to have at least, my classes are usually 30. So I have a class that is 36. So I want to have 16 pages. So if I have to duplicate 1, it's okay. And the reason is because I don't want to have 6 students looking at the same paper because they're going to start talking. So I have 10 minutes and I say, you have 10 minutes, go outside, find those words and write in your text, circle the word and write the number of the definition. It's amazing. They go outside, they look with their partners, they look at the text again, they look at the word, they look at the text, and they start finding. And after 10 minutes, I say, okay, we come back and we review the work. Now, the question is, are they going to be always all of them finished? No, they're not. Most of the time, they don't finish it all. And that's okay, because they have read that text enough times for me. And what happened is I want to put a limit in time instead of saying when you finish. No, there is no when you finish in my class. It's like you have 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, let's see how much you were able to accomplish in 10 minutes. And that is going to be huge. Yes, Maria. So I tell them it's always in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 12 words. So you know that 1, it will be probably at the beginning, and 12 is going to be at the end, and it's going to be in order. And it's challenging. And of course, for my level 1, it's so much easier than my upper levels, but it's huge. And then, yes, sometimes I don't put the word, I put the picture. And when I put the picture, instead of saying find the word that matches the picture, is find a sentence in your text that matches the picture. So it's awesome. I mean, like, it's just unbelievable. Now, I'm going to give you the next one. The match the image is that. So match the image is they have the text, they look at the images, and then in the text, they're going to circle the sentence that matches the image and put the number of the sentence. No, everybody has the same words, Senor Zamudio, because the words are on my walls. So I have 12 definitions. I have 12 definitions. Each definition is on one piece of paper, and they need to find the word on their text, and everybody has the same text. So they're working in pairs, looking at the text, they're looking at each other, kind of helping each other, but they have the same text. I know you are gonna love this, Maria. This is like, oh my gosh. Remember how many times we ask questions for our students? Like we ask comprehension questions for a text, and the results are like sad because they're gonna put their head down, they're gonna start doing something else, they're gonna be looking at the phone, they're gonna be falling asleep. It's just dramatic. It's just dramatic. But what about instead of giving them the 12 questions on a paper, you put one question per paper and put it as a gallery walk. So what I do in my class is I don't give them 12 questions. So I have 12 questions for my text. I'm going to write each piece of a question on a paper, on a white piece of paper, and I write the question. And then I put it in gallery walk, and I put a number. And what they have to do is find the answer on the text. What is the evidence? So they're gonna do exactly the same. So this is kind of like transforming a worksheet in gallery walk. And the great part is your students are up and moving, and you give them 10 minutes again. So you give them 10 minutes, you give them 8 minutes, whatever is the time that is the sweet spot for you. But this is amazing. Why? Because your students are going to be moving. They're not going to be just sitting there trying to answer, and they're going to be working with a partner. And then I forgot to mention why I love it so much. This is why I love it so much. I love it because you can help them better. So this is what I do. I place myself around the questions that I know are going to be a struggle. So I say question 5 is trouble. So I always go to question 5 and I try to help. But it's so much better because I'm helping too. And they're moving and they're engaged. And your conversations with them are going to be so different. So for me, instead of having a class with 34 students or 36 students, and some of them are going to be sleeping, some of them are going to be, I don't know, drawing, and some of them are going to do homework for history or math or whatever they're doing. And I'm trying to, like, you know, keep my eye on everybody, trying to see. They don't, because they leave their backpacks in my classroom. The only thing that they take with them is the pencil and their notebooks. That's it. And that's why this girl just decided that she had to sit on the floor, which is fine. Oh my gosh. So good. Okay, so that is find the evidence or the answer. The next one is find the emoji sentence. I mean, they love emojis. So what I do is I look at my text and I find 8 to 10 sentences that are essential in my text. and I create an emoji sentence. Now, if you don't know ChatGPT, you should be. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence bot, and you can go and create your account, just putting that in Google ChatGPT, and you create your account. And that is the greatest assistant you can have. And this is what it can do. You can copy and paste a sentence from your text, and you can say, can you please create an emoji sentence from this sentence? And it will create it for you. So you don't have to go to Emojipedia or, find emojis. It gives it to you, and then you copy paste that, make it really big, print it out, and then do the same. Yes, Noemi, don't worry. Yes, you will have this. So that is find the emoji sentence. Now, you can also ask your students to do that. Yes, Laura, I have 36 students in my Spanish 3. It's my biggest class. The next one is 32. Okay, with the emoji sentence, you can have students to create the emoji sentences. So what you can do is, again, you can say to your students, select 8 sentences from the text, write the sentence, and below the sentence, write the emoji sentence. Then you keep those emoji sentences and you use it for this. So, but I want you to think about how much time in planning are we having here? None. I mean, like, is the amount of time that you have to write the sentences or write the questions or write the, but you don't even, I don't print it because I have a lot of restrictions for printing in my school. So I do it all in my hand. Like, I just sit down, 7 minutes, write it down, cut it in middle, and then I have classroom jobs in my class. And as soon as I have my mano derecha, I'm saying, mano derecha, I need you to put this in the hallway, separate them, spread them out, go. That's it. I don't spend tons of time doing this, but again, it's so effective. So this is my 7-1. Is Chat GPT. I put it in the chat. It's a website, so you can use it. It's amazing. It's amazing for anything. And it also can help you create questions. So if you're struggling creating the questions, it can help you create a question. Oh, and if you are like, okay, so maybe you're writing a text in Spanish or in Italian or in French or whatever is the language you're teaching, and you say, oh, am I spelling this right? It sounds all right. You can just copy, paste it there and say, fix any spelling errors. That's what I try to do with my English, but sometimes it just doesn't work that well. So it's great. I mean, if you haven't, thank you, Karima. It's great. Okay. This is another one. Okay. Oh my gosh. I know I've given you a lot. So let's recap. We start with questioning. Then we move with TPR and plates. Then we do traffic light with task detectives. Then we did after traffic light, sketch notes and hashtags. And then we did boom. And then we did illustration, and then we did gallery walk, and now we're number 8, respond, reflect, and review. Okay, this is great. We want our students to write, but the problem when we have our students to write is a lot of them are not going to feel compelled to do a good writing because they always say, are you going to grade this? Who is going to read this? We don't have an audience. But with this activity, you're giving them an audience. So this is how it works. You have a prompt from your student. You can have your students you can ask your students, write a summary of the text, but include intruders. That means include false information. Write an opinion about something. Write a parallel story of the one that we just reviewed. Start a story. Write about your weekend. Write about your plans for next weekend. Write something. So this is writing. So you're going to ask your students to write something. Now, I really like to tie it with a text because this is another way that my students are engaging again with that language. So let's imagine that my students are going to read the text of Cesar Chavez. And after they read the text, we're going to do a few activities. And then after we do 2 or 3 activities, they have read that text several times. They really have a high comprehension of the text. They feel comfortable with the text. Then I'm gonna ask my students, write a summary of the text. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes, but in your summary include false information about the text. So I'm gonna put my timer and I'm gonna go 5 minutes. And I'm gonna just keep an eye on them, especially the ones who just tend not to write anything. And I'm gonna really encourage them. And I'm gonna tell them, after that, we are gonna read each other's summary. And every time that I say that, like, oh my gosh, what? Somebody's gonna read my work? Somebody, oh my gosh. And then suddenly they're like, oh, just kind of like, see, oh, what do you mean? They're gonna read it? Yeah, they're gonna read it. So they're gonna ask you more questions. They're gonna be more engaged. You're gonna look at your timer. You're gonna decide, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute. I'm gonna give you 2 more minutes or not. I like to start with 5 minutes and then I keep adjusting. Now, after they do that, they need to leave their notebook or the paper on the desk. I don't have desk, I have chairs. So they leave it on the chair. And then I play music. While I play music, my students move around my class. So they're walking. I try to play something that is just, it's a good vibe. I walk, I dance, I sing a little bit, and then I pause. When I pause, they're gonna look at the desk or the chair that is closest to them, and then they're gonna grab that notebook. And when they grab the notebook, I said, now you grab the notebook, read the text, and identify 2 lies that student wrote in the text, and write your name next to it. And then they identify the lies, and then they circle the lies. And then I do the same. And then I do like 2 or 3 times. It just depends. But what am I doing here? First, I'm giving my students a reason to write because somebody else is going to read it. Then I have my students read again a summary with a clear purpose, that is to find the false information that was included. And they're reading again. And I'm hoping, yes, exactamente, las crean ellos. Pero yes, Maria, so in this case, in this example que estoy haciendo, what I'm asking my students is, I'm going to give you an example. They read the text of Cesar Chavez. So that is factual information, is not personal information, is well-known information. We all know the information about Cesar Chavez because we just read the text. They're going to create a summary. And in that summary, they're going to include false information about Cesar Chavez. So, for example, they're going to say, Cesar Chavez nació en México. Cesar Chavez didn't nació en México. His parents were born in Mexico, but he was born in the United States. But they're going to create, you can tell them, between 5 to 7 lies. But they're going to include in their summary some lies. And then when they walk around and then they read somebody else, the work of the reader is to identify the lies. Oh, that is so good because they're reading again and it's so fun. I mean, like they're reading to each other and you always see like the kid is looking, who is reading my thing, who is reading my thing, because they want to know. You know, we never have the time to read all the work, ever, never. Like, who has the time to read 36 paragraphs when you ask them to write it in the middle of the class? But in this point, they're reading each other's work. And then I play the music again, and then I do that again 2 or 3 times. Now, at the end, we are going to say, okay, who is volunteer? And then you're going to have this increased engagement because everybody did their work. Everybody read something. Everybody reviewed. So now they're going to review their work. Now, there are so many options for this activity that you're going to be blown away. So another thing is, no, Monica, I'm giving them, they should know what is false because that is the text that we've been working on. So if I told them we're working on with the text of Cesar Chavez, they read about Cesar Chavez, they know the information on Cesar Chavez. So when they're reading, they're not guessing. They need to know Cesar Chavez es de Mexico. They need to know that that's false because we read it. We answer questions about, we illustrate about Cesar Chavez. So we already know the story of Cesar Chavez because they have it in the text. Now, I don't let them have the text of Cesar Chavez at that point because we should have done a lot of Cesar Chavez. Now, you have a student who hasn't been in your class for 2 days and haven't read the Cesar Chavez text, then for that kid, I'm going to say, okay, read the text of Cesar Chavez. But that is how I'm going to do it. Now, let me give you another idea for this. You can also, las oraciones falsas las leen because los estudiantes crean. So, los estudiantes crean el resumen. So what I do is I give the students the text de Cesar Chavez. And then le digo a los estudiantes, write a summary of Cesar Chavez, but include false information. So the students are creating a paragraph about Cesar Chavez. And then when they write that paragraph, some of that information, including in that paragraph, son mentiras. Gracias, Maria. Yes. Okay, another, de nada, Mónica, de nada. Another, but think about all the options, right? Like you can say an opinion, like write an opinion. For example, we're talking about uniforms. You're talking about essays. You're talking about AP students, and you're going to say, you're going to give them the essay question, right? Like, so you give them the prompt. Deberíamos tener las escuelas en línea o presenciales. That is your topic. That is the question. That is the prompt. Then you turn to your AP students and say, everybody is going to write their opinion, their thesis statement. Do you agree with this? Yes or no? And why? So you give them 6 minutes and then they write their opinion. They write that first paragraph, put them, have them to stand up, move around, listen to music, sit down, read the opinion and say, do you agree with that or not? Yes, I agree because I also think blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a great way for our students to develop those skills to present a clear opinion and support it with reasons. So anything. And another one that I'm going to try to use at the end of May is create a story. So I'm going to have my class and say, okay, we all are going to create a story. Everybody's going to choose a character. So choose a character. There is an apple, and my apple's name is Sophia. And then have them stand up, put music, move, grab another story, and continue the story. Put it, give them 3 or 4 minutes to work on that. Put them down, stand up, listen to a story, listen to the music, move around, sit down, and then maybe in 5 or 6 movements, they will be just amazing, you know? Laura, yes, definitely. You are gonna have, like, depending on the task that you're having, for some of them, I have to give scaffolding. Otherwise, they're gonna write it in English. So you need to give them the scaffolding says this, yes. So repeat and review is great. I mean, like, I love to see my students. This is a little video, but it's just really nothing. But I love to see my students because they are so engaged. They're reading. So Sophia, I'm doing the opinions for my AP class. So they write the opinion, they have a prompt, they answer the prompt with their opinion and reasons. And then I read your opinion. So let's say that you decide, oh, I believe, I'm going to give an example. Should we wear uniforms? And then you said, I think students should wear uniforms because it will limit distractions. Students don't have to think every day, and it will be less expensive for parents. Boom. And then as soon as you finish that, I'm going to move, and then I'm going to read yours. And I'm going to say, oh, I agree with you because blah, blah, blah. Or I don't agree with you because blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to engage with your response doing this. Yes. That's so good. I'm so glad that you get inspired. I mean, that is what makes me so happy to do this, despite of my difficulties here. Oh my gosh, look at me. Okay, 9, we're almost there. If I get to 9. Okay. Oh my God, this is so good. Have you played? I don't know how to say teléfono roto. Do you know how to say teléfono roto in English? I don't know how to say teléfono roto. Broken phone. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but it's the game. Yes, Sofia, the game of teléfono roto. Telephone. Okay. Okay, so this is a great activity. Okay, thank you, Laura. Split dictation with false information and teléfono roto. So this can be 2 or 1 or whatever you want to do. So basically, you are gonna have a text. Again, we're having a text, and students can work in pairs. You're gonna say student A is the tallest, and student A is gonna have the first section of the test. Let's say paragraph 1 and 2. Student B is gonna have the second part of the text. Let's say C and D. So they both are gonna read the text again, and then both of them are and you're gonna have them cut the text. So one person is gonna have the first part, and the second person is gonna have the second one. So if I'm a student A, I don't have access to the first part of the text. If you're a student A, then they don't have access to the second part of the text. Then a student A, look at the text, and then a student A, identify one sentence of the text. And then a student A do a dictation of that sentence to student B. And a student B has to write the sentence. So it's dictation, but you are not doing the dictation for the entire class, because what happened with that? The half of the class are sleeping, the other one is doing math homework, and is just super frustrating. But if you do it in pairs, they're working with each other. So it's gonna be one-on-one each other. And then what they do is student A is gonna dictate the sentence. Now, if you want to spice it up, you're gonna tell student A and student B, change one detail of that sentence to make it false. So for example, if my sentence is Cesar Chavez fought for the rights of the workers, then student A is going to say Cesar Chavez fought for the rights of the children. And student B is going to be listening, writing, and try to identify what is the false information. Now, this is a great activity that is going to help students, and you have students to identify the sentence in advance. So they can ask you, how do you pronounce this? How do you say this? How you pronounce? And then you put things on the board of how they can ask the other student for help if they don't understand. Like, oh, ¿cómo se escribe? Like, how do you write, I don't know, derechos? Or can you repeat, por favor? ¿Puede repetir, por favor? O más despacio. Or like you give them false so they can ask questions to each other. So that is a great activity, and you're going to have a lot of students engaged. Now, if this is going to be the first time that you're going to do it, just do 3 sentences each. So you keep it short and see how it works and how your students react in the class. Now, yes, exactly, Irene. And they're gonna, at the end, so at the end, what they do, let's say that you're 5. So at the end is whoever is able to find the most mistakes is the winner. And then you're gonna say, gané, perdiste, or whatever it is. But you're gonna make it as a competition to find the thing. Now, another one is teléfono roto. Oh, yeah, perfecto, Maria. That's another option. See, it's like, and then you start like having all this, but the great part is you are not in front of them asking them to do something. And if you're working in pairs, they are gonna, they're gonna have to refuse to do the work and affect a student, a classmate. So the thing is not with you, it's with another classmate. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, but What are we gonna do with Madeline? Madeline is your partner. So Madeline is one to work. So that is what's so good about this is that instead of you doing the dictation and then like, oh, Madeline, pay attention, or do it while you're doing that, or put your phone away. Instead of you in front, they're working to each other. So that is huge. Now, the next one is teléfono roto, telephone. So what you do with teléfono roto is you put your students in groups of 4 or 5, and then you give sentences to each one of the students. So you're gonna give the same sentence, you're gonna just kind of like create 5 or 6 sentences, and you give the first sentence to the first student. And then the first student is gonna have to do it to the next one, and the next one. And the last student is gonna write it out. And then they switch. So the student who is writing out is gonna come first. So you rotate places. And at the end, so if there are 4 students, there are going to be 4 sentences. If there are 5 students, there are going to be 5 sentences. If there are 3 students, there are going to be 3 sentences. So they have to be at least 1 sentence per student. Now, the idea of this is at the end, the group who has the most correct sentences win. And that is amazing. Maria, really, I don't, yes, a veces bueno, a veces malo. So what I do with those pair activities is I have them to do 3 or 4, and then for the next one, we switch to another one. Okay, so this is split dictation with false information and teléfono roto. Both of them great. Now, remember again, and I have to be a cantaleta here, we're talking about a text that they understand. We have a text. And that is going to mean that the motivation is going to be there. If we're talking about words that they don't have a clue, and what are you saying? I don't understand that word. What is derecho? I don't know. I haven't heard that word. Then it's going to be chaotic. But if you have a text that they have read, that they understand, that is at their level, that they feel comfortable, all these activities are going to be super good. Okay, I cannot live without mentioning my amazing snowball fight. So a snowball fight is so fun. These are my students playing a snowball fight. So a snowball fight starts with a prompt. You ask a question. You ask a question to your class. You can say, write a question. You can say, answer this question. You can say whatever is a prompt. But basically what you want students is to answer the question, draw a picture, just respond to the prompt on a piece of paper. After they respond to the prompt on a piece of paper, students stand up. They make a paper ball with their paper. And when you say go, they throw the papers at each other. I know. I mean, you are the best judge. You decide if you can do this in your class. What I do is I have them to create a circle. So they create a circle, and that kind of like really contain any major issue. I give them I just look at them and see when they're still engaged without just crossing that line. It's so fun. They stand up, they move, they laugh, and they're ready. So they throw each other paper, and then when we do stop, they grab the paper, they ungrab the paper, and they do something. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. So the first one that I did is we read a story, and I give each student one question. So the student, we had read the story, we were really comfortable with the story. So the students wrote a question on the paper. I gave them different questions. I put the questions 1 through 15, and I say, this group, you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each student had a different question. And then with the other side, the same thing. So there were a variety of questions. So we have 15 questions duplicated, but we have 15 questions. So they wrote the questions, just the question, on the paper. Then they created the paper ball. Then we did a snowball fight, and they throw it to each other, ba, 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 ba. They laugh, they scream, they wah! And then I say, stop. And then when I say stop, they stop and they grab a paper. They ungrab the paper, and then they have a question that they have to answer. So basically I said, okay, tenemos preguntas, and they raise their hand, and I say, what is your question? ¿De dónde son las cholitas? ¿De dónde son las cholitas? And they say, oh, de Bolivia. Good job. Yeah. Okay. So we share 2 or 3 questions and then we grab the papers again and we throw it at each other. So you can do it like that and it's super, super fun. Yes, the answer is verbal. Now, another way that you can do it is you can have the questions on your screen and you can have students to answer the question. Just answer the question without putting numbers or anything. Answer the question. So answer the question and you give a specific question to each student. So we're not using, everybody's not responding question 1. So you have 15 questions. Each student is responding 1 question, just 1. Then you grab the paper and then throw it at each other, blah, 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 blah. And then they grab the paper, they unwrap it, and they are going to read the answer. And then they have to tell me what is the question that they have been answered. So they have to look at my presentation and say, oh, es de Bolivia, ¿de dónde es? Oh, that's amazing. Okay, Laura, that is great with commands. Yeah, it's just so much, so many options. Now, another option, you can have them to draw an event of the story. So they read the answers to the question and then say what question on the board that is exactly, Caroline. So they're looking at the question. Now, it is so important that our students, since level 1, are aware of the question words, right? Like that's what we do. So this is a great way for students to be looking at the question words. Another one, have them draw a section of the text. So grab them, like just identify specific detail of the text, draw it, do the snowball, throw it at each other, unwrap it, look at the drawing and decide and tell me what is the event. So it has to be, it's kind of like a retell. So they're gonna do retell of the story. And then you can say, okay, so in this picture, Livia went up and was able to climb the mountain. I'm like, okay, perfect. And then another student is gonna grab the paper and is gonna say another event. And then you can do this and say, if that event happened before or after the first event. So you can even retell the entire story through the snowball fight. So it is super, super, super fun. And my students love it and they don't go out of control. It has been great so far. Okay, woo, 10 activities. Now, what can you do after this? What you have all this activity, but then do you want to do something else? You can do something else. You can do a character autopsy. You can, after you have read a text and they have like a place or a person or something that was essential in the text, you can have your students to create a character autopsy. And if you want to have this template, you can just put that scan that and just get this template, and your students can just create a character autopsy of the character of the text. Now, if you're talking about, like, let's say I'm doing Cesar Chavez tomorrow, and then I want to do more activistas that fight for los derechos de los trabajadores in Latin America and Spain. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna Google and I'm gonna find 10 more. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, now each one of you are gonna do an autopsia al personaje of each one of the activistas. So what I'm doing is they already know the text, the original text of Cesar Chavez. They already know the topic. We're talking about fighting against injustices for los derechos de los trabajadores. They know that language. Okay, so we replicate. We're applying all that language that we acquired. We're applying to a new person. But after doing all those activities, we're ready for that. So this is a great way to kind of like apply what we have learned. Now, you also can do this as these are some examples that we have shared. I didn't want to do this. I don't know why is that there. Okay, so the next one, and this is going to be the last one, is gallery walk an epic scavenger hunt. So I was listening to, I think it was the last one or the one before, the podcast of La Maestra Loca, and she was talking about a scavenger hunt. So with the scavenger hunt, you're gonna have to have, let's imagine that your students created those character autopsies. Or let's imagine that you have Panorama Cultural and you have 7 great articles of cultural aspects, and all of them are comprehensible for your students. Let's imagine that your students creating a poster about 7 countries. So basically you have to have 7 or 8 text or posters or visuals related to a topic. Then you ask the students who created that or who read the text to write 2 or 3 questions about that poster, that work, or that article, and then they're gonna submit it to you. So I'm doing that with Panorama Cultural. So I have 8 articles that I pre-select. I have my students to preview the articles. I have 2 students, each pair selected 1 article, and then they're gonna read the article more in detail, and they're gonna create 2 questions about the article. Perfect. So the articles are short, they're between 100 and 150 words. They're perfect for my for my upper levels. Okay, so now I have 2 questions per article, or 3 questions per article, or 4 questions per article. I'm gonna have more because I'm gonna have different classes doing that. So I have like a question bank of, I don't know, probably it's gonna be at the end 20 questions in total. So I'm gonna create kind of like a scavenger hunt. I'm gonna write those questions, and I'm gonna put my Panorama Culturales on different areas of my class. And then I'm gonna give to each group, probably groups of 2 or 3, the questionnaire, the 15 questions, the 20 questions. And as said, you need to go and read the text and find the answers. Now they're gonna know which one they need to read, and they can go to either one. It doesn't matter. Why? Because I don't want this amount of people on the same one. Now they're gonna go and read, find the answer. They come to me to give me the answer, and I say that's correcto, and I'm gonna give them a color and a country. And then they're gonna have a map of all the Spanish-speaking countries, and then they're gonna draw that color, that country with that color, and that's the answer key. So that is gonna be an epic scavenger hunt. They're gonna be moving around. I will probably try to do it not in my classroom, but outside the classroom. And is, you know, after we have read all these articles, that we have seen these articles, after we have engaged with this is going to be an epic scavenger hunt. And you can do this with the work created by your students. So you can say, as the end of the year, each one of you are going to do a text, a poster, and then give me 2 or 3 questions about your poster. And then you create your worksheet with all the questions, and they're gonna go find the answer, come to you, you check, you give them a color and a country, and then they draw it. Okay, Dulce, so you're welcome. So the end is, al final, you give them, when they come to you and say, okay, question 1, the answer is huelga de hambre. You say, correcto, amarillo, Uruguay. So the answer is going to give them the clue, and the clue is amarillo, Uruguay, and they're going to go and find their map, and then they're going to draw amarillo, Uruguay under the answer key. So, oh my gosh, that would be like amazing, because they are hunting. So you have them create the questions. Why? Because you don't want to create the questions, because you don't want to do that. Like, you know, like anything that they can do that you don't have to do is the best. So that way they are gonna just really look for those ideas, and that's what I'm gonna do. So that is, yes, so el mapa está en Panorama Cultural and ya está preparado. So that's why I'm gonna do it with Panorama Cultural, because I already have everything. and I don't have to create anything else but my questions. So yeah, so where can you find a text? So these are all panoramas culturales. If you are in the Spanish Teacher Academy, you have them all. But if you don't, I put a bundle together for the end of the year. So they're all together, there are 25 articles, and they have all the topics, right? Like they have alebrijes, they have dances, they have singers, they have a woman, they have everything. They have products, they have places, they have everything, and is 40% off for 48 hours. So you can go to my Teacher Pay Teacher store and get it, and you can do it. Now, what else can you find a text? Your work, right? Like if you look at what you have been doing with your students, if you create stories with your student, look at those, bring them back, have them read it one more time. So what we don't want is to find texts that are way above them, because that's gonna be just too much. Okay, that's it. I know, it's a great geography review too, Caroline. Luisa, is for level, I would say level 2, 3, and up. It's not for level 1. Definitely it's not for level 1. So can you share this? Let me hear you one idea you will use this week, or one idea you may think about it, or one topic that you want to learn more. And we are gonna finish with this today. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm gonna stay here a few more minutes, but I know that we're already at 8:30, right? Like I never leave on time, but I would love to hear your takeaways. I love to hear if you love one specific idea, if you feel like you're ready for Monday. Yes, okay, Luisa, traffic light with detectives. I wonder, Laura, me too, I love it. Araceli, gallery walk, that's great. I'm so excited for you. I just hope that, yes, Paula, and I think with the variation of you providing the hashtags or they creating the hashtag is great. So I know this has a lot, but I really hope that you have some ideas. Oh, Maggie, yes, Maggie has a lot. So I really hope that this gives you ideas that you can incorporate in your class. The response review activity, oh my gosh, Irene, I hope that it works. Oh, por supuesto. Leandra, yeah. Me too, that's what I'm doing. Snowball. Oh, Platon, respond and review. I wonder questions. Perfecto, snowball tomorrow. Yeah, Angela. Okay, this was great. I mean, I know it's late. Gallery walk. Oh, Monica, I love it. Perfecto, Caroline. You guys are amazing, and I hope that this session gave you ideas where you can have your students up and moving with these last weeks, because it's a lot. So that's it for today. That was it that I have for you today. Espero que todas estas ideas les haya ayudado, because I know these last days are hard. So hopefully you can use 1 or 2 each day that kind of like break the sitting down and just do it. Perfecto. Ya están en mi lista de correos. So now you're in my email list, and I will keep sharing. I have a lot of things for the summer. So yeah, you're very welcome. Un abrazo a todos y a todas. Cuídense mucho. Bye bye.